What's going on, everyone? This is Sarah coming at you from just outside of Hartford, Connecticut for Heartland Sports. And today we're going to do a quick video here discussing the play-in round of the 2020 NHL playoffs. Um, I'll be discussing the big names that opted out, which there's not really a lot of them. And we'll have a little rant going on in a little bit. Don't you worry about that. It'll be about the lovely unfit to play designation. So, without further ado, you can see I have them split up the middle. East is on the left here, West is on the right. So, as you know, the 1 through 4 seeds from both the East and the West have already clinched themselves a spot in the real playoffs, whereas the bottom 16 teams here are doing a play-in. Now, the 1 through 4 seeds do have to play each other to establish, who's the 1 seed, who's the 2, who's the 3, who's the 4. So basically, a team like Boston has everything to lose because they would have been the 1 seed if they were doing this normally, while a team like Philadelphia has everything to gain because they would have been the 4 seed normally. Yeah, they would have been the 4 seed. Okay. I was just thinking about the standings for a second. So basically, I have them organized. Boston there on the top left is the 1, the de facto 1. Tampa Bay's the de facto 2. Washington's the de facto 3. Philly's the de facto 4. And then in the West, St. Louis, Colorado, Vegas, Dallas. So they're all playing each other in round robins. Those start on Sunday, and basically they just play each other all 3 teams will play each other once. So I'm going to use the West as an example here. St. Louis will play Colorado, Vegas, and Dallas one time. Dallas will play Colorado, St. Louis, and Vegas one time. Vegas, they'll play the 3 teams, and Colorado will play the 3 teams. So it's just to kind of get them all used to hockey, get them all 3 games played. All the other play-in teams will at least play 3 games as well. So it makes sense to do that because then at least everybody's playing 3 games of hockey. Every team will be playing one, exhibition game. Most have already been played. There's 3 games that have yet to be played. They'll be played today as of recording. So we'll see what happens with that. But we saw some surprising games. I mean, Florida got their butts kicked by Tampa Bay 5-0. Tampa Bay should not be doing that good, but it is concerning as a Flyers fan that Tampa Bay slaughtered Florida like that. Then again, Florida's not necessarily the best team in the league, but it's still pretty concerning if you're a fan of the Bruins, Capitals, or Flyers. And other than that, most of the games have been relatively close. There was a 4-1 victory. I forget who it was. But most of the other games are usually a 1 goal. The Flyers played the Penguins, and the Flyers eked out a 3-2 OT victory. I was at work, unfortunately, during that game, so I couldn't watch it. But I watched the highlights of it. Good game, physical series, hopefully. Hopefully these 2 teams meet in the playoffs, and hopefully they play well. So I mentioned I'd go on a rant about unfit to play. That's going to screw over the Boston Bruins. So about a couple weeks ago, they started announcing unfit to plays, and there's a long list of them, but I don't necessarily want to discuss every single team, every single person, obviously, because it's not, viable. But a team like Boston, on their unfit to play list, they have players such as, David Pastrnak, Tuukka Rask. So there's arguably your best player and your starting goalie. Unfit to play basically means the NHL is doing these. We all know they do those super broad things all the time. Upper body injury, lower body injury. Doesn't tell you what it is. That's all they say. Upper body, lower body. So you see upper body injury. The guy could have a concussion. He could have a broken arm. We don't know. They don't tell us. And lower body injury. He could have torn his ACL. He could have broke his toe. He could have suffered a slight laceration to his left leg, and he's expected to return tomorrow. They don't tell us that. The NHL has always been vague, and unfit to play is just another way for them to be even more vague, and it's upsetting a lot of fans, rightfully so. Specifically, Boston fans, and they don't tell you what it is. So Pastrnak, we know he was tested positive for COVID, but other than that, it's kind of like, who else really? Does everyone have COVID that test positive that it's unfit to play? Now, Jacob Voracek, he also was deemed unfit to play, and he ended up, someone asked him, "Oh, are you okay? Do you have COVID?" And he says, "Mind your own business." you know, we deserve our privacy, which is true. And odds are he had some simple injury, like a lower body or upper body injury, and he returned, but it's just kind of unfit to play. It's just not fair to the players because at first glance, you see unfit to play, and you think, oh, this guy must have put on like 20 pounds during the quarantine, He must be out of shape. And it's not fair. Obviously, you can't do something like unfit to play, unfit to play, unfit to play. Oh, this guy has COVID because then you're violating all those, HIPAA laws and all that good stuff. But it's just kind of ridiculous that they're saying unfit to play for everybody. But again, you have to do it. You do have to do it. So again, the 1 through 4 seeds in the East and the West will be playing each other in a round robin. Not much more to say about that other than Boston. Boston's going to have some trouble with all their players that are going on the unfit to play list. That hurts them. They very well might drop to the 4 seed, depending on if Philly, Tampa, and Washington can capitalize. Philly and Tampa were two of the hottest teams going to the break, as well as Vegas. So if those 3 teams can carry their momentum, there's a good chance you're going to see a Tampa Philly Eastern Conference Final and a Vegas. If I had to guess at this point in time, probably St. Louis, maybe Colorado, Western Conference Final. But again, the long break does hurt, and we've only seen one exhibition game from every team, and it's good, but it's not good. Obviously, Washington played one; they look decent. So, Boston, we'll see what happens. But now I'm going to discuss the series just a little bit. I don't want to go into too much detail. Patrick already posted videos about that a couple months ago. At this point. So I'm going to start with the West. Normally I always start with the East, so let's change it up a little bit. So, of course, we have the 5 seed Edmonton Oilers playing the 12 seed Chicago Blackhawks. So Chicago, their starting goaltender Corey Crawford is currently also on the unfit to play list. That doesn't help them at all. They're already heavy underdogs. Edmonton's already considered the heavy favorites. Edmonton, I think if you were to look at like a betting line, Edmonton might have the best chance to win their play-in series, which makes sense. I mean, we've yet to see McDavid or Draisaitl on the unfit to play list or hear anything negative about them. So that really helps them out. Chicago, again, when you lose Crawford, yeah, he's not the best goalie in the world, but he's at least been with the team for a while. He has playoff experience, and sometimes that's more than enough. It's not good. Chicago's not going to have a good series. You might be wondering why there was a little mark next to it. So there's 5 series here with marks next to them. That just means that they are playing on Saturday, their first game, Saturday, August 1st. If they do not have a mark next to them, it means they're playing Sunday for their first game, August 2nd. Again, the play-in series, I'm not worried about that, the 1 through 4 seeds. That's neither here nor there. We'll go into more detail once we actually have the play-in round here done. We'll do a whole little bracket. But at the moment, this is where we're at. So Edmonton has a very good chance. It's already a bad matchup for Chicago, and the fact that Corey Crawford's out does not help them. We don't know if Crawford will be back in time, but they're not in a good position in any way, shape, or form. And then we get to the Nashville Predators versus Arizona Coyotes. So Arizona's GM abruptly quit or, resigned, whatever you want to say. I don't know if he got fired and said, okay, I just want to leave, or if he just lost faith. It doesn't bode well if you're an Arizona Coyotes fan, because there's a good chance that Taylor Hall is going to be walking or Phil Kessel's, not happy. The two of them haven't really looked that good in Arizona. And, of course, Hall's a free agent, so that does not help. So I'd be very concerned if I'm a Coyotes fan. The Predators, they're not necessarily a 6 seed, but Arizona's not in a good position right now. I think they have too much stuff going on. They're not gonna succeed. Then we get to Vancouver versus Minnesota, 7 seed versus 10 seed. Again, I'm not going to really go too much into detail on everything, but Vancouver's in a good position. They got a lot of young players. Minnesota's decent. They do have Parisi, so they have a decent shot, but we'll see with that series. No major injuries or opt-outs or anything like that to discuss. And then we have the 8th seed Calgary Flames versus the 9th seed Winnipeg Jets. And the biggest opt-out of the whole, opt-outs is actually Calgary Flames defenseman Travis Hamonic. Now, Hamonic, his family has some health concerns and all that, and of course, he always values his family. It started out when he was a young kid, so he opted out. He's also an impending free agent, so it makes sense because he's going to get a good payday. And let's just say he's playing and he tears his ACL during this. It's not going to be good for him because he's going to lose a lot of money in free agency. He's probably giving up a few $100,000 for not playing, but it makes sense at the same time. Winnipeg hasn't really lost anybody, so we'll see what happens with this whole thing. But again, this will be a heck of a series no matter what. Battle of Canada, always fun. We go to the East now, and we have Pittsburgh, the 5 seed, versus the 12 seed Montreal Canadiens. So if Carey Price can play well, the Canadiens have a shot, because the Penguins looked pretty sluggish against the Flyers. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't really watch too much on the other series. But I know, like, defenseman Carl Asner opted out for the Canadiens, but I mean, odds are he wasn't even making their roster anyway. So he would just have been a good veteran voice to hear from. But at the same time, you could still talk to him. It's not like he opted out. You can't talk to him. So Pittsburgh probably will win that series. So they still have a good defense, and Marino's looking really good right now. Of course, it was one exhibition game, but I had to say it. Then we get to the 6-seeded Hurricanes versus the 11-seed Rangers. I don't remember who the Hurricanes played. It might have been, I think it was the Capitals. I know the Capitals beat them. But again, the Hurricanes are a younger team. That's both good and bad. I think you can easily, both of these teams are young, but I think the Rangers have a good shot if Lundqvist can stay consistent. So that's the best case for them. It's going to be a heck of a series. Of course, they're getting some injured players back. Of course, everybody is at this point, but it's going to be a good series to watch. 7th seed Islanders versus 10th seed Panthers. I already mentioned before the Panthers got their butts kicked by the Lightning. Islanders, we'll see with the Islanders. They're always just kind of there. It's kind of surprising to see them do so well, especially because everybody thought they were done when Tavares left in free agency. We'll get to him in a second. And it's pretty interesting to see this whole thing unfold. Hopefully, the Panthers can get their act together and the Islanders can play well. Because we want competitive hockey. We don't want to see 3-0 sweeps. That gets boring. And then last but not least, we have the 8th seed Toronto Maple Leafs versus the 9th seed Columbus Blue Jackets. The irony is not lost that the team that lost Tavares is doing better than the team that gained Tavares. But again, you can make the case to me that, the Metropolitans more, even strength. You can beat up on the teams like the Devils. Well, that's true, but the Atlantic Division has Ottawa, Florida, who isn't that great, Montreal, and Detroit. So you should be doing better if you're in the Atlantic. Yeah, you got to play Boston and Tampa, but if you're in the Metropolitan, you got to play Philly, Washington, Pittsburgh, and Carolina. So Toronto's going to be an interesting team to watch. Of course, they have all the forwards, but they don't have the goaltending, really. Anderson hasn't been doing that great this year, and their defense is less than stellar. So they have a lot to prove. Columbus was a real surprise this year. Everyone kind of saw them as bottoming out because the whole, nobody's really there. Everyone left. So we'll see what happens. And again, remember, of these 16 teams in the play-in rounds, when you lose your series, you now have a 12.5% chance at getting the first pick in the 2020 NHL draft. And so if you lose, it's not the worst case. It's not the worst thing in the world. You have a chance at getting that number 1 pick. So we can conceivably see Edmonton or Pittsburgh walk away with the top pick in the 2020 draft, which is ridiculous. But we'll see. Like I said, I didn't want to read every single player on the unfit to play list. It would get boring after a while. I only mentioned the key opt-outs. Also, Mike Green opted out. He's a veteran defenseman. He doesn't need to play anymore. So, it'll be very interesting to see how this whole thing goes out. Again, definitely make sure to follow us if you don't already. I'm on the Twitter every single day. But yeah, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Have a good one.